You're listening to the Self-Made is a Myth, Make a Difference Together show with your host, Coach Tim Campsall, where we talk with successful business owners to hear the stories of their journeys in building their successful businesses. And more importantly, we recognize the folks who help them excel because we know that achieving business success is not something we can do on our own.
Hello, this is Coach Tim Campsall, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today. My guest is an avid golfer and enjoys the competitive events that he participates in. In his downtime, he likes to spend time with his children, traveling and experiencing new adventures, and he's most proud of what he's been able to build along with his team at his company. We'll learn a little bit more about that here shortly. It's my pleasure to welcome Luke to the show today. Hello, Luke.
Hi, thanks for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Well, hey, let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you're born and live, about your family and your hobbies.
Yeah, great. Everybody's got a little bit of a start, right? So my start is from Terre Haute, Indiana. That's where I grew up. I'm moved around a little bit, as a young adult, and then settled back into the Indianapolis area. So I live in the greater Indianapolis area now. And, I have two beautiful kids. My wife, Bridget, is a saint, to put up with everything that goes on in business. Yeah, and then two young kids, 5 and 6 years old right now, Kyra and Corbin. And that's kind of the normal life there. I enjoy playing some golf, and we try and have some team events and stuff, but yeah, other than that, that's kind of my start.
Fantastic. You said you enjoy adventures with your kids. What's their favorite thing to do with dad?
Yeah, so really just going out and outside. We've gone to some cool places, and parks, and playing outside and going to the park or climbing on a rock wall or whatever they're into. I try to be into. So yeah, that's whatever they're into, I'm into.
That's awesome. They keep you young.
Yes, yeah, very much.
Hey,
Right.
what's a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Yeah, so I kind of got one here that I think will be fun with my brothers in the business as well. So um, I grew up in a very active household. I have two younger brothers, and sometimes those younger brothers can be pretty tormenting. And so there was one time we recall, and my mom likes to tell this story of that he had been tormenting me, and this day I decided, hey, I'm gonna wait for him. I'm gonna wait for him down the hall, and I'm gonna get him when he comes around the corner. And so the story goes that I waited for him to come around the corner, and I had a full run of speed there. And right as I'm about to get to him to kind of push him into the couch, right, I realized that he's got a full bowl of cereal that he's walking. So I wipe him out, just go ahead and take him right out, spear him into the couch, and the milk and the cereal goes everywhere. And it was about at that time that my mom was less than impressed with our rowdiness at that time. But yeah, it's a great story, and one that kind of comes up often. Anytime somebody spills some milk, basically.
Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. So, Luke, tell us, how did the business come about, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
Yeah, it's a great question. What the business is, it's called Train for the Crane. And we help individuals get through crane certification process. And how it really came about was, I started very young, working in construction and around equipment, and started learning some of that. And then I ended up graduating with an occupational safety and health degree. So I had went back to school and started doing that, and was working in safety. And the company that I worked for had a lot of cranes. They were, big construction company, and it was kind of put on my shoulders and the individuals in safety to figure out some of these new crane standards. So a few years back, some of the OSHA federal regulations around cranes started changing. And so, I had some good opportunities with the job that I had at the time and kind of the roles. But yeah, those federal regulations started changing. And I think just at a fairly young age, I started figuring out like, well, if that's all changing now, then what's that going to do down the road? And so I started really, really just trying to learn as much as I could about that industry. And I mean, I've done pretty much all of the roles in the crane industry that exist, I think, at some point in time. So I just really started diving into that and learning about that. And then I started figuring out that, hey, I've got some certifications that are not like real widely available and not a lot of people have them. And so I started kind of putting myself out there a little bit more and a little bit more and got to a spot where, I was thinking about what I could do for my business way more than what I should have been thinking about for my job. Right? I should have been spending more time with that. Now to find the confidence to leave and do that, that was a real challenge for me at the time. But I finally got to a spot where I thought, okay, I've protected myself enough. I put some things in place to, take this leap of faith. I will say that when I did so, may not have been the exact best time because I had just bought a house. I had a brand new baby and a baby on the way, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna quit my very secure job and I'm gonna go do this full time." So that those are some things that you really got to talk yourself up confidence wise
That's
to
awesome.
be able to pull off. And I've had a lot of support from friends and other friends that are entrepreneurs as well, that maybe helped me along those ways. But just being strong-minded really was the confidence there. Like I see how some of these other people are doing it, and I think I can do it different or better,
That's
or
awesome.
so let's go for it.
So Luke, tell us more about the company. You mentioned the name. Say that again. Tell us, what do you
Yeah.
guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah, great. So our company is called Train for the Crane. So just as it says, it's a play on words that we are training people for their crane certifications. So that's our main, gist there, that we help individuals. We work with large companies. We could train you how to do it, Tim. But
Fantastic. Let me
yeah,
know.
yeah. So, but yeah, we help a lot of individuals. We work with a lot of companies. So if someone is going to run a crane, big construction crane or any type of crane, really, then OSHA says that person needs to be certified. And so we help shepherd people through that process. We teach them, a lot about cranes, how to run them safely, all of the safety aspects involved with being a new crane operator.
Right.
And so we've built out a nice training, modules for that. And then we also help, we just perform the actual certification exams. So we've got all through that licensing process through our team. And so we train people, and then we kind of, flip positions, and someone else will then administer those certification exams. And so someone can come through with us and, leave as a certified crane operator. And that allows them to, better their career or go in a different path with their career. And then the last aspect of what we do is just really helping individuals find jobs and bidding those type of jobs so that people can come through our school and learn these skills. And then we're going to try and hire them and put them into the field. Now, that takes time, of
Sure.
course, but
Yeah.
yeah, those things are what we do for the most part, and we try and help out everybody, but not everybody, gets a job right out of the get-go. It
Yeah,
takes time.
fair enough. Yeah, awesome. For everyone listening, make sure to check out the company and the link in the description, and go visit Luke on LinkedIn and let him know that you watched his interview.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So, Luke, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't think that you could, and the impact that person had on you.
Yeah, that's a good question, Tim. You know, I think that when I started to do this on my own, and I was really inspired by the fact that, like, I thought that some of these guys that were out there doing what I was doing in this niche industry, going into it as maybe a younger person or someone that's getting into business, I kind of had this real pedestal that some of these individuals, I put them on, like, hey, they had been doing it longer than me. They
Mm.
were in theory supposed to know more than I did, you know. And so once I really started putting myself out there and learning how some of these other individuals were doing things, and started getting exposed to asking the right questions sometimes, I started realizing, well, these are all great people, but it's like that guy doesn't necessarily know that much more than I do about that, or he may not necessarily be all that much better than me at that. So I was inspired by really just getting out there and
Mhm.
putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And then the return was that it wasn't quite as difficult as maybe I had originally thought to get to certain levels.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, and one of the reasons that we're doing this podcast is, if we look on social media, everybody only puts their best foot forward. So
Right.
it's easy to
Yeah.
assume that everyone else has it all figured out and we're the only one that doesn't, right?
Yeah. 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 That's a good point for
So
sure.
so to that point, what's been the biggest learning that you've had as a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think, maybe piggybacking off a little bit of what you said there, because I've, when I got started, and one of the biggest learning lessons that I learned was, like, you know, hey, not everybody's got it all figured out. Not this whole business idea is not all figured out. It's a work in progress.
Mhm.
And just it's very easy to see those successes. And as you're running your own business, there's, people that have perceptions of how things are going, or, good, bad, or ugly, really, in that light. But it's very easy to see that success. And one of the things that I learned, I feel like I learned it maybe earlier than some, was I don't worry about all that noise over there all the time,
Nice.
just
Yeah.
kind of keep my head down and keep
Uh-huh.
trying to do my thing and worry about what I'm doing, and not really worry as much about what everyone else is doing. So that was probably one of my biggest learns
Yeah.
early on.
I love that, because if we if we build our own plan and we keep working our plan and be persistent and consistent, we'll eventually deliver it. But if we get distracted by what everyone else is doing, and start changing our plan to, because, oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe is a better idea, or that's a better idea, then we just kind of run around in circles.
It's okay to be different. You
Mm,
know what I mean? It's okay to do it different.
yeah,
It's you can see that in all walks of
yeah,
life. You know what
fair
I
enough.
mean? That it's okay to be different and do things different. It might work, it might not, but it's
Sure, yeah.
it's okay.
And we'll learn from it, right? And get
Absolutely.
better. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Luke, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of your challenges during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner or a colleague who came alongside you and helped you through it.
Yeah, I definitely have a few other business owners that are friends of mine that have helped me along the way, and those friendships and relationships are amazing. But I mean, one of the biggest challenges I think that we encountered in our business was, a very vital team member early on, had gotten very sick, and we had to, we had a plan, right? We had this beautiful plan laid out for this year. We're going to do this, and you need to be here, and we've got this whole schedule laid out, which was going to allow more moves for myself and other, so there was this whole schedule laid out. And then, hey, I'm sick and I need to do this for, a very long period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that whole plan's out the window. That whole schedule's out the window. But I think overall it made us a much stronger team,
Mm.
because the roles that individual played, and was, hey, they were crushing those roles. Well, no, those roles had to be dispersed. And, as much as, sometimes it might feel like it all lands on the business owner, it doesn't. It's the whole team. And getting through that challenge was, I think, very important for us as a business, because I think we could have just said, well, hey, we can't grow.
Yeah.
Without this, we're just going to have to maintain this, and we're going to have to do it like this. And we could have elected to do that. That would have been the safe way to do it. But
Yes.
as a, so sometimes you just keep your pedal down and keep going, and it all works out in the long run.
I've been in a mindset program for the last 3 years, and one of the things the coach says is that to remember that life happens for us, not to us.
That's right. That's it. Yeah, that's a good one.
So the story you just shared is a great example of that, right? If we think it's happening to us, we would have been like, yep, well, that person's out for a number of months. There's nothing we can do about it. So I guess we just ditch all the plans, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we just throw all that out.
Yeah.
No, let's just keep solving the problem every day. Let's
Yeah.
solve the problem. What is it that we can solve today? So,
Fair. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit.
okay.
I ask you to pick 3 people in your business owner journey who you're most grateful for them being there for you and helping with the business's growth. Who are those 3 people and how they help you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say you got to give me 4, Tim. You got to give me 4 because
You might not be the
be,
first person that's asked that.
okay, fair enough. That's great. That's good. Then didn't catch you off guard. So yeah, and I say 4 because there's really, there's really been 4 of us in our core team that really got us all started. So I mean, the first one I got to mention is my right hand man, Davis. He's my business partner. He is really what allowed us to start really getting some momentum going. Before him, it was just me and some help, here, there, and everywhere. But when bringing him on at the start of it, allowed, excuse me, allowed us to, hey, essentially be in 2 places at once is how I felt. Like
Yeah.
I saw his eagerness to learn, and he still has it, which is awesome, right? I saw his eagerness to learn, and I said, well, if I want to continue on and I want to get bigger, I got to try and teach him everything I know, and just let that guard down.
Yeah.
If he was able to take that and run with it and continue to build upon it, and he's now my business partner and my right hand man. So after him, we have Megan on our team, and I can't say or find the words to say how amazing Megan has been on our team. To speak about it, when we got started, she wasn't really sure what she was getting herself into, and we weren't really sure Davis and I weren't really sure what we were getting into. But a quick, short little digress about Megan is that the very first week that she was going to help us out, Davis and I were working in New York City, and our truck broke down because we didn't have real nice trucks or anything, back then. So our truck breaks down, and I have to go to the airport, and I hadn't given her any training at this time, and I call up Megan and say, hey, Megan, I need you to help me here. I need you to try and help get Davis, to a hotel or anything. I mean, we have no vehicle and we're in Brooklyn. So she does. She figures it out.
Nice.
And I remember telling Davis later on, I said, hey, that's something right there, to just be put on the spot with no training or anything, and just be able to solve that. But the thing about Megan is that, she was very quick to realize, that we had, a very big growth process that we could build upon. And, really, she's the glue that holds us all together. And everybody on our team knows that, she's going to get it done and she's going to put us in the right position.
Nice.
So I can't say enough about her. Austin was my next. He's my brother. So he's my younger brother. Sometimes they
Is he
say
the
that
cereal guy?
he's the cereal guy. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. You ever talk to him, you'll have to ask him about that. But so yeah, he's the one that he keeps us really grounded. He's my brother, and that's sometimes a challenge because they say, well, maybe it's not always the best idea to go into business with family, but we're a success story of it because we've been able to make it through all the ups and downs that you could think of, I think.
Nice.
And he's the one that helps keeps us really grounded with all of our moves. With, hey, we want to maybe explore this idea or think about doing this, and he's always that sounding board to keep us in check sometimes, which you need that. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's been very pivotal in our growth, and I can't thank him enough for taking the leap with me, because that was one of the things that he had a stable job and his whole life going on, and I said, hey, I want you to quit all that and come over here and start doing this with me, because I need help, and you're the guy that I know can do all this. And that took some time to convince him, Tim. It really did, because there's the well, does it make sense business wise? But then you really got to have a good, long, hard talk with yourself about the family side of it, and so we worked through that and decided to, I think we both agreed to making it a 1-year trial. We'll see where we're at. I think that's what we said to begin with. And that was like 5 years ago. So we're still doing good.
Wonderful.
And then the last of my four that I mentioned here in my core team is actually really one of my first. His name's Connor, and he's our cousin. And so he was really the first, because when I started this, out of my basement, I started asking him to come over and, hey, why don't you come over in the summertime and help out, and be able to help you out with a few things. And he kind of started getting into it, and he came back he wanted to do it again the next summer, and then the next summer, and the next summer. And I don't think he went to college for a while, so maybe another summer or two in there. But we got to the end, I knew he was going to graduate, and he had worked that last summer with us. And I said, hey, cuz I plenty about this industry. I mean, you've been with us now as long as pretty much everyone else. Are you sure you want to be an engineer? And he said, no, I'm not sure I want to be an engineer. And then that whole discussion really started, and hey, look, this is what I think it looks like, and so on and so forth there. And him coming in with already having a lot of knowledge of how we did things, what expectations were, and how we ran our operation, if you will, really allowed him to just hit the ground running.
Nice.
And get him through all his certifications very quick. And I think we figured it up that he worked in 38 states last year. So there's a huge growth potential for him as we continue to grow and move into different roles, at a younger age. So I'm excited for him. Yeah. So that's our core group team there. And I just know that we wouldn't be anywhere without every one of them. Every one of them have played just the most pivotal role. And I would, I'd put our team up against the dream team. That's how I feel about it. So there we go.
So Luke, as we think about the next 1 to 3 years, what's the main point of growth or challenge that you see that you're going to face in order to achieve your goals?
Yeah, I've described my industry as a toddler. It's just very, very young. It hasn't been around for hundreds of years or anything like that. And there is a lot of changes that have already occurred and will continue to occur. And a lot of that challenge for us is going to be some of the technology or tech aspects of that. We're very proficient, right? But yeah, we started in the field, most of us, right? So we have learned and gained those skills over time and years. But as as fast as tech is moving,
Right.
and my industry is, a very young industry, that I think that we're going to have, challenges or hurdles or just, a lot to learn in that space
Mm.
that we haven't had to early on in our business, which is very opposite for a lot of companies, tech companies.
Right.
So we're going to have a lot to learn in the tech world, I think.
Fantastic. And last question here. Jim Rohn, um, awesome business guru. One of his quotes is that we become the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So as you
Okay.
think about that quote, what advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own?
Oh, that's a good one too, Tim. I mean, it might be a little cliche, but don't be afraid to fail.
Hmm.
I mean, really, it uh, some of the best lessons that I learned, were because, hey, I think I got all this figured out, and then you don't have it figured out, and then you just have to continue to try to make the best decision possible.
Hmm.
And I think that when I say that, there's a lot of hesitation sometimes where you don't want to make the wrong decision, you don't want to make someone upset or say the wrong thing, or you know potentially be looked upon negatively, because you've chose one thing over the other.
Right.
And I think I've just found that, hey, it's okay to make those mistakes, it's okay to you know have to sit someone down or talk to a company and say, hey, look, here's the decision that we made. We made it in best interest and thought that we were making the best one.
Right.
Hindsight turns out maybe it wasn't,
Yeah.
but I feel like if we, can just stand on the fact that we are doing things that we think are the best,
Hmm.
then kind of everything else seems to understand from that point forward. So you don't have to be afraid to fail, because you said it earlier, there's always a lesson to be learned. And, if you can make good decisions, then it's never really a failure.
Right.
It's,
Yes.
halfway good and halfway learned something.
And the reality is, how do we all learn how to walk?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, you fell down a bunch of times.
Right.
Everyone did. So,
Yes. In fact, the worst thing that we can do as a business owner is be afraid of making mistakes, because then we'll get stuck in that analysis paralysis mode, and we won't
oh
do
yeah,
anything. And it's impossible to. I tell folks that everything we want in life and everything that we want in business is on the other side of our comfort zone. So if we're not willing to step out and try some things and make some mistakes and learn from our mistakes, then we'll stay stuck wherever we're currently at.
yep. And I think that speaks a lot to building a team, because you gotta, everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. And then, I feel like from my perspective, it's one of those things to find those strengths and then keep trying to build upon them, of, hey, what more can we do in this area that you're really, really good at?
Yeah.
And, keep trying to find those strengths for everyone and push, not push in a negative way, but push them to, want to do more and want to be more and want to learn more. And that's part of the success that we've found in building our team, for sure.
Fantastic. Luke, it sounds like you've had some pretty incredible people in your journey that have helped you build your business. If they were all here on the show, what would you want to say to them?
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to, I know that building a business and going that direction, with family and people that you become close to, is not always the easiest thing. You know what I mean? There's days that are hard. So I think it's probably just thank you for, believing in me and yourself. As if they were here, I'd say that to them. So yeah, I think that's probably the easiest one, is thank you for the belief in me and the belief in yourself to keep going, and we'll just keep building this thing.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Luke, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, Tim. you have a great thing going here, and I wish you all the most success.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.